Hello everyone and welcome to Grace Kitchen. Today we're going to be working on something pretty fun. We're going to be doing a tried and true crock pot easy dinner recipe, and then also doing something a little bit fun that I've never done before. We're going to be making a crock pot lasagna soup. Can't go wrong with that, it's good every single time. And a little bit later we're going to try out some sourdough cardamom buns. I'm so excited to try this out. I've never even had a cardamom bun before, but I thought it would be fun to try a new recipe, just see how it goes, and I'll bring you guys along with me. So if you want to see how that works out, just keep on watching. So first up for this recipe, we're going to add in 1 can of diced tomatoes. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our 1 jar of tomato sauce. And this one is actually pretty fun because if you have watched it or if you remember, this is actually the tomato sauce that we made together. So if you'd like to see how I made that, you can go ahead and watch that video next. But yeah, so this recipe calls for the 1 jar of tomato sauce. So we'll go ahead and add that in. Next up, we're going to add in our 1 cup of broth. It doesn't have to be boiling water. This is just kind of what I use to carry around water. And this is a 1/3 of a cup measure, so I'm just going to go ahead and add 3 of these. And then just to make things a little bit easier on ourselves, we're going to add in this chicken powder, which is essentially a powder version of your little bouillon cubes. So just add, I believe 1 teaspoon of this goes into 1 cup of water to make the broth. So I don't usually measure, I just kind of eyeball it. So now we're just going to add in some of this Italian seasoning, some dried oregano. These are our little salt and pepper shakers, so I'll just do a little bit of each. So that's good for this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put our crock pot insert over into our crock pot machine, and then we will work on the ground meat to put in this. Now it's time to brown our ground meat. For this, you can use any type of ground meat that you would like. This is ground moose, just because my husband got a moose this year. We have used ground deer, you could use ground beef, just whatever your family would like. So I'm just breaking this up a little bit. And we're going to cook it just for a little while and then add in our onions. Now we're just going to add in our diced onion. We're just going to let this cook until our onions are translucent. And when we're in the final stages, just before it's all done, we're going to add in our garlic just so that the garlic doesn't overcook or burn. But then we can make sure that our ground meat is cooked all the way through and our onions are nice and soft. Now that the meat is browned and the onions are translucent, we're gonna go ahead and add in 2 healthy spoonfuls of our minced garlic. So I did go ahead and set our crock pot on high, and this is going to cook on high for 4 hours. And now we're just going to go ahead and add in our ground meat, our onions, and garlic into our crock pot. Now we're just going to mix everything together until it is well combined. And we're going to set this on high for 4 hours. Alrighty, so now that our crock pot has been working away for us for the last couple of hours, we can start the sourdough cardamom buns. Now, because this is a sourdough recipe, it is going to take today and tomorrow. So tomorrow we will be able to have our cardamom buns, but today is just starting the process. So first things first, we need to get a large bowl and start mixing the starter. I have my recipe right here. So we can go ahead and mix together the starter, water, milk, and brown sugar. For this recipe, we're going to be adding 100 grams of our starter. Just turn on our scale and add 100 grams. Next up, we need 75 grams of water. The next ingredient we're going to be adding is 50 grams of milk, 40 grams of brown sugar. Now we're just going to mix everything to make sure everything is properly incorporated. 45 grams of butter. Next up is 325 grams of all-purpose flour. Next ingredient we're going to be adding is, of course, the cardamom, what makes it the cardamom buns. And in the dough itself, we need half of a teaspoon of cardamom, and I have a quarter of a teaspoon here, so I'm just going to add in 2 of these. And now the last ingredient we're going to be needing for this is our 1 egg. So now we're just going to go ahead and give everything a good mix until it forms a shaggy dough. All right, so now we're just going to go ahead and let this rest for 30 minutes, covered with a damp tea towel. All right, so it is now 4:30, and I'm hoping to have supper ready by 5. So now that we are 30 minutes out, we can go ahead and add in our lasagna noodles. So here is what our soup is kind of looking like now. Now that we are going to be adding in our lasagna noodles, so you're just going to break them and then put them in these little pieces that are definitely a lot more manageable in a soup. So that is all of the lasagna noodles that we'll be adding in today. And you're just going to want to go ahead and give that a good mix. And then we're going to let this continue to cook for an additional 30 minutes, just so that the noodles have enough time to soften and cook through. Something I decided to add in last minute is a few good handfuls of some chopped spinach. It's just an easy way to get in some extra veggies, and you're honestly not going to notice. This does look like a lot of spinach, I know, but the thing with spinach is it wilts down to almost nothing. So it actually won't seem like that much spinach when it all gets mixed in and cooked down. You can already start to see the spinach wilting down and almost disappearing, which is why we added the amount that we did. And as it cooks down, it will continue to wilt. Now we're gonna let this finish cooking for 30 minutes. Our 30-minute timer is all done. It is fully rested. And now we have to knead our dough for 5 whole minutes. You could use a stand mixer if you have one, but I don't. So we're gonna be mixing this by hand. And the recipe did say that it's expected to be a little bit of a sticky dough and to do not add more flour. You just want it to be like this. So we're gonna get things ready and I'll go ahead and set our 5-minute timer and I'll start kneading the dough. Sleeves up and start kneading. So that was the end of our 5 minutes of kneading the dough. It wasn't sticky until I left it on the counter. Okay. It's still a little bit sticky, but it definitely said to not add any more flour. It does feel very nice and pillowy, and it is a smooth dough rather than a shaggy dough when we first started. So now we have to put our dough back in the bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. Now we have to let it sit for 1 more hour. And then after that 1 hour timer is up, we then transfer this over to the fridge and let it do a bulk cold ferment in the fridge for 12 to 18 hours. So we're just going to get our lasagna soup ready. And 30 minutes has passed, so it should have had enough time for the spinach to wilt and the noodles to soften and fully cook. It's looking super, super good. Now we're just adding in our final ingredients. The recipe does call for ricotta, but I like to use the ingredients we already have on hand. So we are going to use up this last little bit of cottage cheese. Now just give that a mix. And to make this extra yummy, we're just going to grate in some sharp cheddar cheese. Here's our finished bowls of lasagna soup. I'm just going to add a little bit more of the shredded cheddar cheese to the top. And there you have it, a cozy, comforting crock-pot dinner for these colder winter days. Alrighty, we are back with day 2 of our baking day. I just took our little dough ball out of the fridge, and now the next step is to roll it out. The recipe said that you can add a little bit of flour on the counter, but the person that created the recipe did not do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try it without any flour and we'll see if it sticks. It is very, very firm from being in the fridge, but I assume that's exactly what we want. And we're going to roll this out into a good-sized rectangle. So now we're going to be mixing up our filling. So I have our 5 tablespoons of room temp butter right in the bowl. Next is our 1 teaspoon of our ground cardamom. There we go. Next up, we need 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. There we go. 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, but we're just going to eyeball it here. And that is actually it for our filling. So we're just going to now try and mix it all together. It did take a little bit of elbow grease just to make sure that it's properly worked in and mixed together, but that was definitely on me. I should have set the butter out a little bit earlier. I thought that from like 7:30 this morning until now, which it's 1:30, I thought it would have been enough time, but I should have given myself just a smidge more time. So a note for the future, if you guys ever want to try this recipe out, make sure your butter is soft enough. But anyway, we did get it, so now we're just going to add in little dollops of our filling all over our dough, similar to a cinnamon roll. And then just spread all of the filling in an even layer, getting every little piece of the dough except the very edge. I definitely don't know why that was such a struggle, but it really was. For some reason, my filling just didn't want to stick to the dough. So I spread it out to the best of my abilities, and now we are just going to take the long side of the dough, which is this way, and fold it into thirds. So just pick up one side, flip it over, flip it over. I'm not sure if that was equal. I don't want to mess this up. I've been working on it for so long. Okay, that seems to be good enough. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other side and flip it and flip it. Okay. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Now we are going to smush the little layers together. Okay. Ooh. So now we need to take a sharp knife and cut little 1-inch sections. I did watch a video last night on the technique of rolling these into knots, and I'm going to try my best. So the video explained that you want to, in your dominant hand, take your 2 fingers, place the little bit of the end of the dough on your middle finger. You're going to want to wrap that around, and then put it over and in. Okay, that doesn't look so bad. I might need to stretch them out a teeny tiny bit more, just so I have more dough to work with, so that I can wrap them around. Okay. So middle finger, wrap it around, over and under. Okay, I think we're doing it. Hopefully they don't bust apart in the oven, but I'm sure they will still be delicious, which is the main point. Oh no, oh no. Okay, not bad. I don't know if they'll be the prettiest. I really don't. I've never done anything like this before. All right, that is them all rolled. Are they done correctly? Don't know. I really tried my best, but I'm sure they're still going to be delicious. The knots, it's kind of tricky. All right, so now we're going to add all of our little knots on a parchment lined baking sheet. And we're going to let them sit for 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so our 2-hour timer is up, and you saw me add the little bit of an egg wash, and I preheated the oven to 400, and now we're going to bake these on 400 for 17 to 20 minutes or until they're nice and golden brown. I don't know. It could have been a flop, or it could be perfectly fine. It seems like most of the insides, maybe not most, some of the filling kind of spilled out and burnt to the bottom of the pan. Don't know. Okay, let's just get these off and we'll see. I just added a sheet of parchment paper just below my cooling rack, just because if they're a little bit drippy, I don't want that dripping on my countertop. So that will hopefully catch all of the little drips. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like the bottom, they're pretty brown, but that also could just be the sugar that came out and burnt. But I followed the recipe. Not sure. They might still be delicious. I'm not losing hope. Definitely not. So much sugar on the pan. Okay. I guess I'm going to get a new sheet of parchment, bake the rest of them, then just let them cool, and we'll see what we think once they're cool. Okay, so our cardamom buns are all out of the oven. They all came out beautiful and golden brown. That's definitely to do with the little egg wash that we added. And I also went ahead and added the glaze that the recipe recommended. And this one, unfortunately, is going to be a little bit anticlimactic. Only because, yes, they look beautiful. I did eat one and they are good. They are good, but everything that I've seen on the internet so far has just been, when you eat a cardamom bun, it's just an explosion of the cardamom flavor, and I didn't get that with these. It could be partially because most of the filling, unfortunately, for some reason, kind of seeped out of them. But yeah, so the dough is good. It is, again, not that sweet, but that could also have been the way that well, it wasn't the way that I made the filling, but it could have been the way that I rolled them or wrapped them. But yeah, so these are good. I just don't know what I did wrong. And it's kind of frustrating for me because I love obviously a good outcome. But yeah, so if you have any tips, if you watched this and you were like, oh, you should have done whatever, rolled them a certain way or did something with the filling, I would love to know. I'd love to try these out again and really kind of knock them out of the park. But again, these are good. It definitely could have 100% been an issue with me rather than an issue with the recipe. But it is what it is. Sometimes you get an amazing recipe and an amazing outcome, and sometimes you don't. But these will definitely not go to waste. I'm sure my husband will enjoy them once he gets home. Thanks again for spending another 2 days in the kitchen with me. It's been really fun. It might not have been the outcome that we were expecting, but it was still super fun. Could be a good learning opportunity as well. So if you liked this, definitely go ahead and like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!